If I told you automotive manufacturers intentionally make products that you'll have to replace, what would you say? Would you believe me? Do you think differently? Do you agree with that statement? The fact is, planned obsolescence isn't new, but it's worse than ever. And it's affecting the way the auto industry works and the way the trickle-down economy of auto ownership works. And it's not going to change for the better for the regular guy like you and me. There are measures the average consumer should probably take moving forward. Now, I'm an early adopter to this. What you do is your choice, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing about it right now. Planned obsolescence isn't new. It's something that's existed since the Industrial Revolution bred the consumer as we know it today. And as Henry Ford made the Model T, he made a vehicle that he thought was the perfect vehicle for everyone. That no other vehicle would be needed. It would do everything it needed to do for anyone who needed to travel. And he reduced the cost year by year and did things to streamline manufacturing to make it so everyone could have one. However, as automotive sales tapered off in the 20s, other companies adapted what they call planned obsolescence. Now, originally, that was things in terms of styling, right? Or horsepower, or engineering for things like brakes and suspension that gave you a better product as an initial tier 1 consumer, and also gave the advantage to the trickle-down consumer, the second, third, fourth, fifth owner, that they would get a better car for their money when they came to the market to buy a 5, 6, 7-year-old car. But as time progressed and the automotive industry faced competition from overseas markets, European stuff, Japanese stuff, later Korean stuff, they were forced to do something a little different. No longer could they just refresh the body every year because they no longer had the sales volume to support that. The Chevrolet was known for changing the body style every year from 55 to 1970. That was planned obsolescence at that time. They increased the horsepower ratings, gave bigger engines, gave better performance, offered amenities like air conditioning, automatic transmissions to get people to buy cars. You got air conditioning so you can stay cool. You got an automatic transmission so your wife doesn't have to shift. This stuff all made sense. It was great for the trickle-down consumer. However, as the industry was faced with competition that it had never known before in the post-war era, and even in the pre-war era, but especially in that post-war boom, they had to make compromises. And so sales volume decreased. Margin must remain for the company to survive, So the big thing through the adapted market in the 70s with fuel economy regulations and stuff like that was cost cutting in other areas because volume was down. Margin needed to go up, cost cutting naturally, right? So vehicles downsized, they tried to adapt, they struggled. And coming into the 80s, they started to get their footing, they started to build good vehicles again. And some might argue that, 80s, 90s, early 2000s is kind of peak reliability, peak DIY guy like us, reliability where we can maintain the vehicle with parts from our local auto parts store with hand tools. And there's a handful of vehicles that really embody that, and we'll talk about that in a later video when we're shopping for these kind of cars. But the fact is, as time progressed, this only got worse in terms of cost savings. And I think the breakover point was right around the recession in 08. So in 08, as you may know, car companies were struggling. We had a big market crash, real estate all down, foreclosures, unemployment, everything was bad. So we lost brands, we lost Pontiac, we lost Oldsmobile earlier. We lost Mercury, Saturn, whatever, all these nameplates Saab. And things would never be the same, right? And so after that 08 era, we saw further stringent safety standards, economy standards, and things that the manufacturers had to adhere to. So not only did they have that reduced volume and increased competition, but now all those increased expenses of adhering to those things, like CAFE standards and crash test standards. So they had to cut corners, right? And so the only corner left to cut was shorten the lifespan of the vehicle so that the consumer returns sooner, so that we can sell more vehicles in that regard. And what you're going to see as time progresses is we're not going to have those 5, 10-year-old used cars to buy because their lifespan isn't that long. These vehicles today are built to last the duration of the warranty for the tier 1 buyer. And if that person sells it after 2 years, sure, you're going to get a used car there or something like that. It's going to be massively depreciated, but it's not something you can own a long time. And even as a used car buyer, you will be back in the market within a few years to buy another used car, because the cost of repairing your modern 2025 vehicle in 5 years will exceed the value. It'll require proprietary software and tools to repair. It will require the dealership. They'll obsolete parts sooner, and you're out of luck. None of this is going to change for the better. So that's the fact we just need to accept. And so I'm an early adopter, but I'm going the other way. As a lot of you know, I'm buying older cars strategically. Vehicles that are known to be reliable, plentiful in terms of parts because they were engines, drivetrains used in a broad range of vehicles or a high production number of vehicles, a lot of aftermarket support. And when you do this, like I said, you got to be strategic. You want to make sure you do a pre-purchase inspection if you're not competent yourself to inspect a vehicle to make sure it doesn't have rust in crucial areas like the subframes and the suspension mounting points, things like that make a vehicle not safe. But the bottom line is, you have two options. You can either do what I'm doing, or you can have a car payment for the rest of your life. So the model they're going to want to push is going to be something like your phone, where you've got a subscription plan. You've got a subscription to Toyota Care, Toyota whatever, Chevy this, Ford that. And every so often, you're eligible for an upgrade, right? Oh, thanks for an upgrade for me. But that's to keep you in the system. And it's not so different than leases now. But as time progresses and these vehicles are engineered to have the higher turnover customer, that's the way the market's going to go. And it's not just the automotive market. It's the entire economy. It's appliances. It's all kinds of consumer goods. Because we're no longer owners. We're consumers. They don't want us to own anything. They want us to be in debt to them and the banks for the duration of their life because that's what's profitable for them. And I'm not into that, right? I don't want to have a car payment. I don't want to owe anybody money perpetually just to have means of transportation. So, as Americans, we often, I think, have this idea in our head that we owe something to the automotive industry, that we need to support it, that without it we'd be lost. But at this point, I don't care. I cannot support a company's best interest who doesn't support my best interest. I don't want to replace my vehicle every 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years with another expensive brand new vehicle, or stay in a payment, stay in full coverage insurance. There's other options. And that's what this channel is all about. And so this message is for some of the people in the comments of my other videos who've expressed things like, well, new cars, amenities, this and that. Listen, screens are cheaper. That's why you have them. That's not an amenity. You're a sucker. You buy that. You buy that idea that screens are better. They're just cheaper to manufacture. It's insane how people fall for it. Physical buttons cost more money than capacitive buttons and touchscreens. It's a facade. It's not better. And you're going to see the tide shift where physical buttons appear in higher end vehicles again because they feel better to the touch. The things around you feel better when they have a physical motion. It feels more upscale. But the average idiot consumer is going to buy a $40,000 to $60,000 car with a touchscreen and a big giant LCD display for a gauge cluster, and think they've got something special. Meanwhile, I'm driving my XJ or my Nissan or my Charger or my Fox body, and I just laughing at them because I know I have a higher quality product. Safety standards, same thing. You know, people bring up safety. Well, that's a luxury, right? Not everybody can afford that, and that is also a type of planned obsolescence. Now, it's forced by the government, but it's an incentive for you to buy a new car. Don't think for 1 second that these companies care about crash safety. They don't. They care about profits, period. That's it. That's it. Their sole incentive to operate is profits. So, this message to everybody out there. Yes, new cars are safer. If you want to stay in the system, please do. Please do. Absolutely. But to all the people who are finding themselves spending money on things like this that maybe they simply can't afford, or it just doesn't make sense anymore, or they're finally questioning, wait, why am I doing this? Why have I bought this idea that new cars are more reliable or better? They're not. But in the future, keep your eye out because I will be making a video on how to systematically choose a vehicle that fits the bill of what I'm describing, something easy to service, a local mechanic or by yourself, any local mechanic with hand tools, readily available parts. I can't stress that enough. People seem to think the information that they're fed by the industry is that these are obsolete. Just because it's not available from the OE doesn't mean it's not available in the aftermarket. Go look at rockauto.com. It's available. There's nothing to be scared of. Save your money. Shop wisely. Enjoy the drive.